Hi, my name's Phil. I like talking about politics, and in this video I'd like to discuss how Steve Bannon, former advisor to both the US President and the UK Prime Minister, as well as deeply involved in, of course, Cambridge Analytica, has been arrested by US authorities for fraud. But first, if you'd like to be notified of daily news and politics, please subscribe to the channel and click the bell notification icon. So yes, Bannon, Trump's campaign chief, the guy who brought Cambridge Analytica into being, the organisation, of course, that stole people's personal data and then used Facebook to target voters in both the US and the UK in order to bring about a Trump presidency and a nation-crippling Brexit, respectively, has been arrested for nicking money that was supposed to be part of a fundraising attempt to build that bloody stupid wall on America's southern border with Mexico. You know, the one that Trump kept going on about. You know, we're going to build the wall, and Mexico is going to pay for it. I wonder what happened to that top priority campaign promise there. I wonder if he's going to be bringing that up during this year's election campaign, because that's what you do, isn't it? You know, when you win the presidency or when you win any election, when it comes to the next election campaign, you stand on the promises you made in the first one and show how you've put them all into being. Or, we said we'd do this and we did this, so you need to elect me again. I assume that's how it's going to work. So anyway, the news came in yesterday, from my point of view, that Bannon had been arrested aboard a luxury yacht by what looked like the US Postal Service. Now, there's a thing that causes a double take in other countries. Postal workers? Do they go around arresting serious criminals? Is that because they've got time on their hands now that Trump doesn't want them to be delivering postal ballots? But no, in America, apparently it's a thing. It's the US Postal Investigative Service. I don't think it's actual people who deliver the mail. We're told from reports it's actually the oldest law enforcement agency in America. So there you are. You learn something new every day. But anyway, the charges, into the serious stuff. Actually, just as a little aside, it has to be pointed out, when you consider the people who were around Trump in America at the time he became president, and in those early few months, quite a lot of them have been arrested now. We also know that Donald Trump would have been arrested by now as well, were it not for the fact that he is the sitting president. Which again makes the fact that hopefully at some point he won't be the sitting president in the near future quite interesting. And if anyone hasn't caught Joe Biden's speech, by the way, when he accepted the nomination to be the presidential candidate for the Democrats, it is worth a watch. I know an awful lot of things. Biden really probably wasn't the best choice, but in actual fact the speech was very good and he delivered it very well. It was a good speech. It was a good speech. But anyway, back to Steve Bannon. So the charges, what are the charges about? It's another one of these Al Capone things, really. Really is guilty of all sorts of terrible things, but this is what they get him on. So the charges relate to large sums of money being siphoned off by, first of all, a chap called Brian Colfage. Now, he was the public face of this fundraising campaign to build this wall. He's nicked a load of money, but also, of course, Steve Bannon, which is why he's been arrested, and some others who were, at the top of this organisation, to pay for expenses. Now, there's a couple of things with this. First of all, the promise with this campaign was 100% of the donations would go towards building the wall. So, should there really have been expenses? But here's the thing. Those expenses included home improvements, luxury vehicles, jewellery, a golf cart, personal credit cards, and things like this, where you're not really sure how they are necessary expenses to run a campaign to build a wall. It's just possible that that's why he's been arrested. Now, following on from the arrest, there were various people who have been guided by Bannon, who have sought to distance themselves. Trump, of course, being chief amongst them. His spokesperson has said, no, Trump has nothing to do with this project. He's probably going to come out now and say he's not even sure who Steve Bannon is. I don't think I've actually met him, have I? You know how he always does when someone gets arrested and you go, oh, I didn't really like them anyway. Or sometimes they'll even try, I've never even met them. And then people show all the photographs of him shaking hands and talking to them. The same thing will probably happen with Steve Bannon, even though he's his election chief strategist. But anyway, you've also had Nigel Farage attempting to delete a video, apparently, of him thanking Bannon for all his help with Brexit. Boris Johnson as well, it has to be said, was also advised by Bannon. But his chosen method of distancing himself is to hide in a tent in Scotland. Because, you know, this is the last week has been a week when COVID cases are continuing to be on the increase in the UK. The exam grades fiasco has caused a humiliating U-turn. We had another crucial round of Brexit talks taking place this week that I thought he said he was going to take personal charge of. And in a week such as this, he has chosen to hide away in a tent. The Daily Mail found him. As opposed to even pretending that he was leading the country. I mean, as Angela Rayner, who's the deputy leader for Labour, said, yeah, I mean, yeah, everyone needs a holiday, but come on, man. We're in a bit of a crisis here. Really, Parliament should be sitting again. They should be returning. But the Prime Minister should certainly be back and actually saying something. But make no mistake, the web that included everyone involved, and I mean everyone involved in Brexit and everyone involved in Trump's presidential campaign in 2016 is connected. It is a web. It is no coincidence at all that all of those involved in the US and the UK and Russia are connected to each other as well. And the spider at the centre of this web, connecting them all, is Steve Bannon. And that's what makes this arrest so interesting, because what he's been arrested for are 2 charges that carry a possible sentence of 20 years each, so taken very seriously in the US. But he's been investigated and charged on matters relating to the theft of funds for a project to build a white elephant on the US border with Mexico. And you may think to yourself, well, you know, it's not going to have far-reaching impact, is it? This is just fraud. And, you know, you get, yeah, okay, this is going to be potentially disheartening for the racists who contributed to the fund, thinking it was going to be put towards a wall and not luxury items for the men in charge. It doesn't do much for us, did we? I mean, we didn't contribute to that fund. But as I see it, this is going to be a high-stakes, high-profile case. It will also run for a while. I think it very likely that the media will start running more on Steve Bannon. Now that he's been catapulted back into the limelight, you may even see investigative journalists digging up a few more skeletons over the process, and also poring over the skeletons that were dug up by investigative journalists like Carol Cadwallader and others at The Guardian some time ago as well, and bringing those to wider prominence. The fact that his former associates are at the moment ducking for cover and trying to expunge the tracks that link them to Bannon means that they also probably think this is coming as well. And it may bring back into sharp relief the role that those data thieves had in the stealing of the US presidential election in 2016. In the UK, we may also be reminded that Bannon advised Boris Johnson and Nigel Farage, and last year he sought to build a base of operations from Italy in order to train the next generation of populists to further weaken Western democracy. America and UK had been conquered effectively, time to start working on continental Europe. He was booted out of that base, but he's still there, he's still around. Well, obviously he's not, at the moment he's in the US under arrest. And this is a project that Nigel Farage was involved in himself just a few weeks ago. Remember, he was off in Italy a few weeks ago, trying to push the... I'm not even going to try and say the word that they're coming up with it, but Italy's exit from the EU. And, you know, this suggests, of course, that the relationship between Farage and Bannon, is not quite as distant as Farage may wish to say. Oh, that was a few years ago. Oh, I'm not sure it is. And that Steve Bannon, of course, was behind the speech that Boris Johnson used last year to attack then Prime Minister Theresa May and position himself as her successor, defying at the time the accepted Tory wisdom that he who wields the sword will never wear the crown. Well, he did. It may also lead to people questioning how various funds were used For example, Nigel Farage seems to enjoy a pretty swanky lifestyle on income of dubious sources. Last year we were told that he was given his income by Aaron Banks. For what? He doesn't actually have an official income at the moment. And although he's wealthy, he's a multimillionaire, he's not so wealthy that he can just retire into a life of luxury without further income. He was, of course, supposed to be doing his round of speeches in America, but COVID knocked that on the head. And of course, he was going to be, and he still may be, joining Trump on the campaign trail. I'm sure that'll pay well. But in terms of his activities last year, people may want to start asking, so who had control of the Brexit party funds then? Because there was suggestions of some dodgy dealing there. Did Nigel Farage have control of those? And how exactly were those funds used? After all, if Steve Bannon instructed Farage in political campaigning, he may also have instructed him in financial mismanagement techniques as well. So I would say the scope for further digging into Bannon's activities, as well as those close to him, is significant. But of course we will see this over the coming year, I'm sure. But those are my thoughts. Let me know yours in the comments below. I hope you found the video interesting. If you did, don't forget to click the like button. And if you'd like to support the channel further, please also click the Patreon link for details. And until next time, I'll see you later.